And we're live from
Yep.
my apartment.
I am sitting on the couch. Not the casting couch, thank goodness.
Well, it's a black leather couch.
Oh,
I don't know
God.
what else you want to call it.
I want to leave.
I want to call a spade here and say that we are at the end of quite an interesting few days. We're recording this on a Sunday as per usual, but instead of 8:30 in the morning, it's 8:30 in the evening. What have we been doing all day, Justin?
We've been shooting the two death cars that we've teased the last couple podcasts, namely a 1981, quote-unquote, Porsche 911 SC with a turbo swap and the Rossion Q1.
Yes. You mean that? Wait, are you sure it's not a Lotus? It's green and it's mid-engined, so it must be a Lotus.
So I think we need to give a little, just tell that story real quick because that was kind of funny.
It's not our story to necessarily tell.
Yeah.
But so the owner, Jason, shout out Jason. We've been trying to film this car. This is third time's a charm, actually, now that I think about it. Right?
Yes.
This project is third time's a charm. We tried shooting it once in June of 2018, when it decided to spin itself and almost kill me. We jokingly say almost kill me. It wouldn't have killed me, but like I would have probably killed myself after having damaged that after the spin that it did had it hit something.
Yes.
So, yeah, spin in a corner in East Canyon, not great. Didn't touch anything. I just flat bottomed 4 tires all at once. The second time we drove it, and by the way, those tires were 10 years old. They were a decade old tires. The second time we drove it, we were informed in the morning that when the owner showed up that there's a little ticking noise that was quasi RPM related. So that problem developed further and further throughout that shoot day. And roughly 2:30, 3:30 in the afternoon, I think is around that time, is when we decided to call it quits because the little ticking noise got worse. And on the way out of East Canyon, the engine said bye-bye.
Yep.
So
then there was a long hiatus where the car went through many painstaking things of getting the engine redone, getting actually hit in the front end twice to no fault of the owner, just some bad incidents.
The car is cursed.
And then
I think he should not get like a legal vanity plate, but like just some like, printed on cardboard but looks real vanity plate that says cursed.
He should.
Because he has tried to get a legal DMV plate that says cursed on it and they won't allow it, apparently.
He was told that it was offensive.
I don't know who that would be offensive to.
It would be offensive to Christians that believe in curses or someone.
Or pagans, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
look out for them pagans.
But we finally got to actually, between yesterday, Saturday, and today, Sunday, finally put a nice little wrapping on the top of that present.
You and I both drove it, so that means it worked.
Yes.
Like the car still drove off under its own power, and the tires that it arrived to us on. The only 2 you could possibly say hiccups that happened in this entire experience happened today with one rock chip.
Yep.
Which is not ideal. That kind of sucks. And then he did get pulled over on the way home, but not for any real fault of his own either. He was trying to avoid an accident.
Yep.
So, the car worked and it actually drove far, far better than it ever did before.
We put a solid probably 200 or so miles on it
At
between
least.
today and yesterday. It was about 200 miles.
Yeah.
Because he didn't leave from nearly as far as the rest of us.
That's true.
Because it started at around 14,585 and it ended today at around 14,800.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
Yeah. Not too bad.
No, not at all. Yeah, well, I mean, I'll let you lead on this.
So, overall, the car is just so much more sorted. Part of the inspiration for this shoot was the fact that the car was a death trap, especially back when it was unpredictable between the tires and between the boost not being regulated. Actually, not at all, because it didn't even have knock sensors to determine what was going on inside the engine when it was detonating on the original tune and shit. Between the first time and second time we drove it, it actually did have the brakes replaced. The first time,
That's it.
Yes, that
Okay.
was the makes and models thing that he was talking about. Where he bought
Oh,
those
yeah.
rotors.
So what? He got new calipers then, or
Rotors, just rotors.
oh, okay,
But I mean, it was an upgrade to a race brake set. I think it was rotors and pads.
okay.
So
Wait, to a race setup or from a race setup?
to a race setup. That's
Oh,
why they're
okay.
so squeaky now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they felt great though.
yeah, never had problems.
No.
Between that and even the steering rack getting replaced due to one of the accidents and like
Mhm.
so many of these other little things that have just happened and gotten updated, the car is completely transformed now.
It is a whole new car. Boost actually happens in somewhat a progressive manner, yet still violent. It still makes 500 horsepower and weighs 2,200 pounds.
Yeah, it's a shove.
Oh, it's a huge shove.
Yeah, because like I took Jaden, one of the individuals that was helping us out today, in his first drive of the Rossion yesterday, and
Did he drive it?
no,
Okay.
he got to ride side saddle, and I was just like, okay, are you ready? And gave it a big old wallop, and he's like, holy shit, that's crazy. I was like, that was half throttle. That was not foot buried. What?
Yeah.
No. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, give me a second to where we have a very safe and clear straight, and then I will boot it. Because I will not be booting it unless we are quite a ways away from a corner.
Mm-hmm.
So did it then, and he was just like, holy shit, that is a push, especially when it's a mid-engine car. So you feel it coming from the rear, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, and really forcing you forward.
Well, speaking of coming in from the rear,
oh boy,
I'm talking about Porsches, Justin. Jeez.
I could tell you were. Anyways, but that car ended up good. The Porsche, the other car we had, also is fantastic.
The motherfucking light pole. It's funny. I stopped and saw my parents actually on our way out of our shoot today back to Salt Lake. The way the day kind of went, we were going to be driving around Park City anyway, and having grown up, part of my childhood and my growing up, and the reason why I'm a car guy is because of air-cooled Porsches, and I got to drive my dad in an air-cooled Porsche today.
Air-cooled turbo Porsche.
Sure, but the fact that it was an air-cooled 911,
Yeah.
like I got to back out of the driveway from my childhood home, drive through our neighborhood that we used to drive through, and do a big old rip on Highway 224 from the other side of the neighborhood back home.
Yep.
And that is something I've kind of been waiting since I guess the late 90s to do. I've been waiting almost 25 years to do that.
And you did it.
He did that today. So that's a big bucket list item. My dad was thrilled by the thing. He had all sorts of questions like, whose car is this? And like, how much is this thing worth? And how much power is this making? And where it's like, oh, that's where the turbo comes in. That's cool. My car it comes in like much sooner. I'm like, yes, I know.
It's because you have a newer Audi TT.
Yes.
Very different type
Very
of
different thing. Yes.
Completely mechanical engagement versus electrical decides when it wants to engage.
Exactly. Yeah. The completely different type of turbo technology. And I even popped the hood for him and like showed him like the huge intercoolers. Like, and it's what was funny. He pointed at the oil filler cap. He's like, this is the thing I hated most about the older cars. He's like checking the oil out of this thing. I'm like, yeah,
it's a pain.
Yep. But that was really, really cool. And anyways, but more about how the car drives. It's a 930 turbo engine and gearbox transaxle swapped into the chassis of what is a 1981 911 SC, but with a body that is a backdate car, which means it's supposed to resemble the late 60s, early 70s, especially with the ducktail.
Yeah.
The ducktail is actually not really for downforce, but more to get air into the engine is really the thing. Despite what like anyone else who knows anything about cars sees that car as. Yeah. Boost comes in kind of how like the Rossion used to, kind of all at once just before 4,000 RPM. You still have to hold on. Jaden actually drove that car today.
Nice.
Which was really cool. You saw us get out and swap and do that stuff. And Jaden, I've tried to turn him on to Porsches before. He drove a 996 Turbo. He drove the 992 Carrera. And he was like starting to get it at that point. And then he drove the Gulf livery car today. And he was like, oh, yeah, I think you've ruined me now. I'm like, yeah, I see where you're going here. he started to get into a groove with it too.
Yeah.
I kind of had to twist his arm about it, like in the beginning. I was even like, hey, do I need to hold your hand to like, come on.
I could kind of understand
I
the reservation though.
100%. Yeah, he doesn't want to break the car, but like those cars are also like they feel and are fairly robust.
Yeah.
It's not as you have to kind of try to break that car, even on a hard 1-2 down or sorry 1-2 upshift.
Yeah, and I wonder if that, trans is like he said that trans came from a 78. So I wonder if that trans might eventually get replaced cuz like there's weird little things. It's an old car. So like yeah, synchro's a little old. Like the second gear synchro is very common in older cars like that.
Mhm.
And this transmission was
It started
no
to pop out a couple times today, actually, and I told Michael about that when we returned the car tonight.
Yeah, and luckily, like we're kind of R&Ding that for Michael a little bit because he put tires on. He's like, let me know how it goes, and then we're like, oh, there's a little rubbing. You need to.
Oh yeah, so for those listening, the driver's side rear shock we think is starting to sag a little bit on right hand turns, and it also kind of happens on straights too.
Mm-hmm.
It will rub to the point of if you pin it, you'll start smelling tire smoke.
It squats pretty good.
It's got some decent squat. I mean, the fenders probably need to be rolled. If it was my car and my money, and understanding how much, what that the owner does or how he can swing things, I would say just replace all the coil or all the suspension, or at least anything that suspends.
Yes.
Such as struts and coils, and do corner balance.
Yeah.
Like really get it sorted, and then also possibly look into engine management because like even on like full throttle in third, like deep into boost, it would sputter and stuff.
Yeah, we had it at about roughly 8,000 to 9,000 feet in elevation today where we were, and it was struggling
a little bit. It's understandable. It's still old technology. If it was something like a new M2 or something like a newer type of turbo tech.
I mean, hell, even the Rossion with its basically new turbo tech because it has a custom tune on it now.
Sure.
Never had problems whatsoever. And
say like a 992 turbo, that up there would basically drive the same as a borderline at sea level.
Yeah, it'd be a minuscule differences at best because it would compensate for almost everything it could.
Yeah.
But and that car was fun. Like I had quite a few good rips in the Porsche, and I don't think I'll ever come around to Porsche in the way that you do. I really
I have the nostalgia driving it, and also with my social media feed, I'm always constantly fed, whether it's classic air-cooled stuff or modern GT3 stuff. There's a certain feeling that I get when driving in an air-cooled car, like between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM.
Yeah.
In a water-cooled car, that sensation also happens like above $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in GT3s, like when you're about to slap red line at $9,000.
Yeah.
I'll always have that, and I always like the feeling of knowing something that not a lot of people know of how to manage the weight of a rear engine car.
Yeah, and I've grown to appreciate it quite a bit. I understand now, like why Porsches are so popular and synonymous, and why they are a very good de facto answer for a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
Completely understand it. Like my automotive tastes have always differed a little more into like I like the things that are a little bit more either pragmatic or odd and off the beaten path. A little more like kind of collectible for the fun of it, not even for value. Value is pretty much out of the equation. I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, like a yellow convertible Saab 900 turbo.
Yeah,
that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, like I don't care whether or not it's valuable. I don't buy these things for investments. I don't have the money to do that.
You and I have that same belief, by the way.
I'm more like, for instance, one of the quite a few things that intrigues me about the Rossion is its rarity and the crazy, weird story behind it.
Especially that one in particular, too.
Yes, because that one in particular has been on TV and has had a very certain famous white helmeted racing driver drive it.
Pilot it, and possibly may or may not have beaten a Ferrari 458 Italia around a track by the tune of 10 seconds.
Plus, it was the original Rossion founder's personal car because it was the test mule for everything, and it's one of only.
And it's part of why that car also kind of has a troubled past.
Yeah.
And it now has almost 15,000 miles on it and has had an engine rebuilt.
Yeah, and
I mean, for the first, Jason got it at what, 6,000 miles, I think? Something around there.
Not sure.
And before, maybe 8,000 miles. And before that, it had the absolute balls beaten off of it constantly.
So funny thing, and we actually didn't get to finish this story, but the person that owned it before him was an exec at MTV.
Oh, no way.
And he only owned it for 3 months.
Wow.
So, but he said that he didn't have any problems with the car. He was getting into the story, but then we had to get going on to do a shoot portion of the drive.
Oh,
but,
gotcha.
Either way, the car's had quite the crazy history. That particular one, it's one of only 2 painted in green. Like, and according to him, which I think is hilarious, and all of us agree is asinine, that deep metallic forest green, or like British racing green that it's painted, is apparently the most hated color.
Well, he said the interior was the most hated on by enthusiasts.
Which is ridiculous.
It's BRG over tan and black inside.
It's lovely.
That's the best spec. That's
Yeah.
that's best case scenario.
And fortunately, between both interior and exterior, I do love the fact that none of those 3 colors, or lack of color technically in the essence of black, are overdone. There's just enough tan on the interior, just enough black accenting the tan on the outside.
Right.
Black wheels on the BRG with a couple other black accents around the car. Like, it's very balanced from a color perspective.
100%. It doesn't look like a crazy this is common in the Porsche world, and I think it's also common in the Ferrari world, I believe.
Yeah.
Where a prospective buyer will contact a salesman at a dealership and be like, "Hi, I'd like to buy one of these," and then the salesman specs out the car for how he know it will resale later, not to what the owner wants, but for how it's going to sell later.
Yeah.
And that combination or that situation many times ends in just this weird cacophony of like weird spec of like color combos and things. Some things are in carbon, some things are like this weird contrast stitching that to go with this thing. Is like, it's just too much.
Actually, there was at one of the dealerships I work with, there was a base 996 2-wheel drive Carrera convertible that came in with factory yellow wheels, factory yellow paint, factory yellow stitching, factory yellow seat. Like, everything was yellow. Everything they could spec in yellow, they spec'd in yellow.
Derek would love this car.
Oh my! It was Big Bird on wheels.
No, he wouldn't.
It was disgusting.
That's awful.
It was. I hate the fact that it was as well done as it was, because it was all done from factory. Like, even the wheels were painted from factory like that, and they're the 3-piece wheels.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was like.
Whoa.
Actually, here, I'll quickly dig that photo up, because it was. But anyways, that's a great example of like how bizarre some specs can get for no reason. And that Rossion just has such a good balance of its spec.
Yeah, that it doesn't. It's not in that situation.
No.
Do we know why the wing got put on, by the way? Because since we drove this car before twice and it didn't have this wing on it, I was sent a photo of the wing ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's actually it's been painted, or at least wrapped. No, painted in the same color that the car is in, this BRG, with the end caps being black.
Yes.
And it looks very it looks super OEM. It looks like the car came with it.
Yeah.
And I was worried ahead of time because, like, like when you play Forza Motorsports, and there's always, doesn't matter what car you're in, there's always an option for at least a front lip and a wing. And if the car doesn't have any other like aftermarket company wings, like say Veilside or RWB for Porsche, or any other kind of like cosmetic part, there's at least those 2 things. And it looked like what was gonna be a Forza wing on this car, and I was getting kind of worried.
Fortunately, that was.
It looks great on the car. I was flabbergasted.
Yes, and I don't necessarily know the purpose, other than he found out that was, I believe, and I could be a little wrong in the exact phrasing here, but It sounds like he found out that was a wing he could install relatively easily, and it's made of carbon fiber, and it's an actual adjustable race wing.
Yeah.
So just kind of the combination of all that was like,
It was also on what he said, a charity car
Yeah.
before. So it was like, I think, purple and orange.
yeah.
Like that was maybe part of a wrap or part of like some other, like something for a charity car.
So it's just a combination of stuff where the clamshell on the rear was also off anyways to do the
Yeah.
engine stuff. So it's kind of like,
While we're in
you're
there.
in there, yeah,
May as well.
there's the Porsche.
That's awful.
Yes, the factory. Yep.
That's. Oh, I remember you sending this to me.
So I didn't get a picture of the interior, but yeah, the interior had yellow.
It's a Tiptronic car too.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was all the worst things about a 996.
Yeah, Derek would love this car because it's yellow body with a black roof.
Well, wait, so that is that is the factory like roof for the 996.
A factory hard top for the convertible.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember those.
They're terrible. I had to remove it. It's a pain in the ass and it's stupid. I mean, it doesn't. To be quite frank, that is one of the worst things I've ever seen Porsche do because it doesn't even look like it fits the car well.
It doesn't look stock. That looks like someone just came in with bad taste 15 years later, ghetto rich the fuck out of it.
And this is granted, I can only say this because they don't do this anymore, but I'm going to really insult this. Like, the panel gap with where it fits is like worse than Tesla. It is horrendous.
It's slightly worse than some of the worst Teslas. Yeah, it's very bad.
Very bad. I'm glad that they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, they just put metal inserts in the soft tops and make them better.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is far worse.
Yeah, that's so bad.
Yeah. Anyways, it was this weird car that came in, but fortunately that car's good. And like honestly, going back to the Porsche, even the Porsche, it was the current owner put the Golf livery on it that it currently has. He put
the Golf part of the livery, but
Yes.
it came painted that powder blue, which personally I would rather have it that way. I get it. A lot of people like the Golf livery. It looks good. It's executed well.
And it attracted a lot of attention.
It attracted a lot of attention. Some people thought it was a race car. Or some people, well, they at least asked if it was a race car.
Ironically, people asked if the Porsche was a race car, but the Rossion, which is a race car underneath, nobody asked about that. They just asked what the hell is that?
Right.
But the Porsche was also, even with the livery, pretty well balanced. It wasn't completely overdone.
Oh, no, it could have been worse. They could have put, he could have put orange on the Fuchs.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
I mean, it's not as bad as that yellow car.
No. No.
But yeah, no, that was done in good taste. And I mean the super aggressive vintage style buckets in that thing.
I was gonna ask
with the houndstooth center. That's not factory. That's,
no,
that's part of the back date.
Yeah. I was gonna ask
the
where it came
interior.
from.
Yeah, it was just some vintage style. You know, some aftermarket seat.
Gotcha.
I'm sure it wouldn't have come from a Porsche or anything factory that I know of. Yeah, houndstooth centers, leather bolsters that were crazy fucking aggressive. Very race car for back in the day.
You ain't getting out of that seat.
Yeah, wooden shift knob with like a two-tone, like a spiral thing. Like the Momo has their like heritage knobs. It's kind of like that. Momo Prototipo wheel in a smaller diameter, which helped for the fact that it didn't have power steering.
Yeah.
Floor-mounted pedals, as all air-cooled cars have. I don't know, black everything else, had a nice old boost gauge off to the right that kept bouncing up and down.
and like pretty simple. I'm glad they didn't do, besides the seats and the shifter, I'm glad they really didn't do, neither him nor the previous owner did too much on craziness on the interior. It's very clean.
Very, very clean. The current owner has actually added Dynamat to it to kind of quiet the car down.
He said he had to wear earplugs. When he first got it, he took it on a drive through like Oregon and Canada and a few places with his wife.
Yeah.
And he said that once he got home, he sent it off to get Dynamated because it was so loud. He
still has earplugs in that car. There's a thing that's in the middle of the dash, like just on the underside of the dash.
Gotcha.
That you can pull down, and it's kind of like an ashtray.
Yeah.
And there were earplugs in there.
I don't blame him because even with the Dynamat in there, I could see that getting pretty old after a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Some people have a tolerance for really loud 911s. There is an individual that is now on his, at least I know of, second really loud 911.
Yeah.
One of the first one was a 991 GT3 RS that was straight piped and about as loud as a cup car.
Yeah.
And his second one is a 993 RWB. That's all done up. We actually saw him whizzing on by this morning.
Yeah.
in Alpine Loop. But and I've ridden in that RS,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually not that bad because the engine is behind you and the exhaust goes backwards and everything goes backwards and you're moving forwards and you're going away from the sound. It's kind of for everybody else.
And those modern cars, not even just sound insulation in general, but just general design, tend to reject sound a little better than an old, very simplistic metal frame.
I was going to say part of how just the metal and the bodywork is like put together. And probably pulsations and all that engine management stuff. It's probably less harmonious.
Oh yeah. But so our we're finally done with this shoot, and be watching for this video. It'll be coming out.
My DoorDash is here. Hold on a second.
Oh boy, he's got food. He's gonna go get his food. But we will be going through and getting all this footage done and edited and whatnot. We have a planned date. I'm not going to announce it as of this moment, but we are hoping for in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We will see how that goes. But the shoot went quite well overall. We had really hardly any problems the last 2 days. Today, we actually had to go and completely redo our 2 shoot locations because of the fact that fall colors are in absolute bloom right now. And therefore, everybody and their dog is in the canyons. We shot in Alpine Loop going through and Cascade Springs. We went up through American Fork Canyon and Alpine Loop and into Cascade Springs. Last 2 days that worked great. Today it was impossible. It's crazy to see a road that small and that narrow with that kind of craziness and really tight-knit stuff. I'm not. No, I was just actually updating on how crazy the road was today. How many people. Because I just informed the listeners about the last 2 days were relatively, for what's going on right now with fall colors, average. Today was like, no way.
You cannot believe how many people can fit. And I would be curious to hear if there's a way to document how many people came in and out of that place today.
The fact that there was practically an unbroken line of cars from top to bottom of Alpine Loop.
If you start the clock at say 6 a.m,
yeah,
or let's say sunrise to sundown.
Mm-hmm.
Sunrise being the first time you can actually, maybe not sunrise above the mountains, but daylight. You can see.
Yeah.
From that until it got dark, I would be. I wouldn't be surprised if it exceeded 10,000 cars.
Not at all. No, I agree.
On a road that is a lane and a half wide for directions of travel. There were people riding their bikes on there. When I say bikes, I mean pedal bikes. I mean mountain bikes. There were people with horse trailers.
Oh my God.
There were the fact that we didn't bend a rim. The fact that we didn't scratch any kind of paint on any kind of trees that would poke into the road. The fact that we didn't fucking kill anybody. We didn't touch gravel. I mean, Chen did in his Crown Vic, but he doesn't give a shit.
That's fine.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chen.
None of the other the actual 2-star cars, had nothing happen to them.
Oh my God.
So
of all the days for something to have happened, and I think that's proof that the curse of the Rossion is not broken, because of all the days for something to have happened,
it would have been between yesterday night coming down and today.
Yeah,
because yesterday night coming down was pretty much everybody leaving at once, so it was a similar amount of people going down all at the same time.
Sure.
For about probably an hour.
Yeah.
And I drove the Rossion down on that, and I was
on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 being completely calm, you could fall asleep, and 10 being actual poo shooting out. Where were you at?
Probably 8.5.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to Gavin and Jason, the only reason I was even at that level was because I've done shit like that since I have a CDL and have driven semis in fairly narrow canyons like 12th Street Canyon in Ogden, where, yeah, that's a 2-lane road, but fitting anything larger than a regular SUV up there is pretty tight.
And ask.
Yes. And so I'm used to having to get really close to things, and it doesn't scare me as much as it used to because I just get into kind of hyper attention.
Yeah, and I was driving the Porsche today because we had both cars at the same time.
Yep.
I was in the Porsche, and I felt okay about that because it was an older, like 911. It had a smaller form factor to it, and I also had pretty solid visibility over what the front two wheels were doing. I could really place it better. If we were in, say, a 992,
that would be a little more different.
I would have probably, well, I wouldn't have been the one to drive it. I would have definitely asked an owner to be there to then drive it.
Yeah.
Or we would have just purely gone in from midway.
From entirely different direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually, between that, one more thing that we found that we believe the Rossion curse is finally broken happened yesterday, which is we have a constant problem with GoPro problems. And they kind of started with that car way back in the day.
Yes. So part of the problem that happened with Rossion, we had an audio failure of some kind. I think something with the Zoom H5. Or maybe we just didn't have microphones.
We didn't have mics.
And we just thought we could use the audio from the GoPro. But the GoPro in question was in a metal cage that wasn't quite perfectly fitted. So the metal cage, or the GoPro, was shaking within the metal cage, which part of it came from just the vibrations from the car being in motion. And part of that also was from 4 flat-bottom tires shaking the car at speed.
Yep.
Especially when the speed hit triple digits, which is very easy to do in that car. And yeah, the curse of our GoPros overheating or batteries dying or just timing out or whatever started after we shot that car for the very first time in June of 2018. And now it feels like the Boston Red Sox in 2004 when they finally won the World Series.
Because the funny thing is that GoPro overheating even happened up until the day before when we shot the Porsche. We had GoPro problems.
That's true. Yeah, we've had GoPro problems. We had them especially with the NSXs with the blue car.
Yep.
We had
Mark V, when you were trying to do your bit.
Generally, it's when I'm driving, actually.
Yes, but the Mark V, it overheated like 3 or 4 times. We had to restart. We had
992.
992. We had a GoPro fly off on the black NS, or on the the black NSX.
That was my fault.
It was, but still,
we had a GoPro fly off the red 996 Aero kit.
Yep.
That I think that's a Nate Gracie curse because that also happened on his red 964.
Yes. Either way, the fact that we went from basically having a GoPro issue of some sort every single shoot day, to then the day of the Rossion reckoning, it goes away.
Yeah, that is interesting. We'll have to see what happens on the next one.
I know it will be interesting to see if it is fully broken, but
and if it's not broken, then that means we have to exclusively make Rossion content. Will become the Rossion P1 Q1
the exclusive connoisseur for a car that only made 80 units.
Yes, and nobody talks about.
And by the way, it is currently traded hands for only $55,000.
Well, one example did,
but insanely low. And even the past year, looking on Bring a Trailer, there's only been 3 sold in the past 2 years. There's only been 3 sold in the past 2 years, none of which traded for over 65.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great buy for 50.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that coin, we saw a BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the front wheel drive heinous looking thing.
Yeah.
You can easily spec those with normal packages above $50,000.
Yep.
For like 51 or 2.
The fact that like that car is trading for in between, we'll say that 55 is on the low end because it probably is, up to
it is
between 55 to 80. I mean,
$80,000 is still a good buy for that. You said that the brand new they were selling for like 110?
110 to 120, depending on how it was spec'd.
I mean, especially how that car is now, I still think that that's a value. especially seeing what cars are going for now. I mean, the dealer markup that some people are putting on GT3s now is almost, or some of them are in excess of that.
Yeah.
So, like, imagine buying a GT3, but paying the amount of a GT3 and a Rossion Q1 from new.
To just get a GT3.
To get, it's a 1 for 2 deal. Or no, 2 for 1
2
deal.
for 1, yeah.
But that's not the kind of deal you want, though.
No, 2 prices for 1 car.
Yes.
No, and the Rossion, now that we've actually seen the legitimate capabilities of what it can do within the last 2 days versus the last times we've shot it.
Yeah, I kind of want to drive that on East Canyon to see how different it can.
Yeah.
It really is, and on a road that we know we can kind of push harder on.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the car and the chassis definitely show that it actually is really capable of amazing things the past couple days. Whereas prior to that, a lot of the history of the car was holding it back. Between engine, tires, everything.
Well, our history and the history that happened before we got involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have definitely left our mark on the development of that specific car. Had the owner not said yes to us doing our first video on the car, it would not probably be in the position that it's in now. Granted, it's cost him money.
Yeah.
It's not really to any fault of our own because I didn't know the car. If I knew the car had 10-year-old tires on it before driving it, I wouldn't have fucking driven it.
Yeah.
But the flat bottoming of the tires and then, to no real fault of our own, blowing the engine later. I mean, those things could have happened independently away from us in the owner's life, and the car could still be in the situation that it was in about a year ago, which was not great.
No.
So, who knows? I'm happy to know the owner. I'm happy the owner knows us. He's a great guy, and I'm glad that we were able to leave a positive impression on him today, and also be a positive change in that car.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Well, I think we can probably...
How long have we been going for?
Wrap it up for now. For about 40 minutes. So.
Okay. A little bit of a shorter one today. We're tired. I have fried chicken sandwich.
Exactly. I want you to get your chicken before it gets cold.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate you. Good looking out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I hope everyone has a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever this podcast may find you. It's always Gavin.
I, Justin.
And this has been the Expedition Speed Podcast. We're very tired. Good night. Bye.
Bye.